And welcome back to another episode of Life in Prison. As always, my name is Zach. So today what we're going to be getting into is some of the crazier things that I saw while being incarcerated. I've had a couple subscribers ask me, what was some of the crazy things that you saw, being up on the gang unit? Well, unfortunately, I spent 5 years of my life in maximum security prison in West Virginia statewide. Within that time, I saw a lot of different crazy things. Violence, I saw death. First we're going to start off. So long story short, there was this blood that ended up coming in. So he ended up getting a life sentence of his murder. Him and a co-defendant. So in West Virginia, top security 2 prisons, maximum wise. You've got Mount Olive and you've got Huttonsville. So this dude, as I said, blood dude, let's just call him Slime, right? So he ended up getting sent to Huttonsville, where I was at the time, and his co-defendant got shipped to a different prison, right? So long story short, his co-defendant said that he was a rat, right? The only thing that we saw was what was on the news and in the newspapers and stuff like that. We didn't see the actual paperwork. They don't disclose all this stuff. So at the end of the day, the Bloods ended up giving him a 30-day period to get his paperwork sent in from home. Well, if you think about it, right? He didn't have the paperwork, okay? Sometimes you just don't have it, right? Especially his discovery, which was like 700 pages long, because it was a murder case, so there was a lot of evidence involved. Plus, he had a co-defendant, so he had a big packet, right? So trying to obtain that, if you're on the streets, right? Say, because it was his mom that was trying to get sent into, right? So she had to go to the courthouse, request to get that stuff sent into her, and then she had to then send it into prison. Well, it took longer than a month, more or less. He put it on his flag, he put on everything that he ain't no rat, but that in fact, his co-D was actually the one that ended up telling on him. Unfortunately, in prison, paperwork really goes a long way. It's kind of like your passport, your card, like your free card, you know what I'm saying? And if you can't obtain something like this, then it can be an issue, especially if you're part of an organization or gang. So long story short, the gang ended up fucking him up because he wasn't able to get this paperwork within 30 days, right? Like 6 dudes went in there and really hurt this boy, right? He wasn't that big, 5'7", maybe 120 pounds. He was a skinny dude. You cannot then go to chow or go and do anything off the pod because the COs are gonna see that you are fucked up. So he ended up staying in his cell for about 2 weeks for all the swelling and bruising to go down. And don't get me wrong, the dudes that ended up going and trashing him were then required to then feed him. Since you went in there and trashed him, since you don't want to get caught, he then needs to eat if he's going to stay in the cell. So they had to then provide food for him until he was able to go down and not get in trouble, right? About 3 weeks after he ended up getting fucked up, right, his paperwork hit. Lo and behold, he in fact was not a rat. His co-defendant, who was up at Mount Olive at the time, actually ended up getting fucked up. He ended up getting stabbed a couple months later when everything got said and done. But so the top of the Bloods that was there at the time that called the shot to get him, beat up for being such a rat, right? He ended up getting fucked up, lost his position just because, you making wrong moves, you got, it doesn't always work out like that. Whenever you're involved in an organization or gang, living on the gang unit for my whole 5 years, you see a lot of stuff. And to be honest with you, whenever stuff did pop off up there, right, it was bad. Because you gotta think, you got 60, 70 dudes up there, right? All the gang leaders are up there. Then you got majority of all the violent people. Now, since it was a gang unit, not everyone up there was in a gang, right? And it didn't hold all the gang members because there was 200 Bloods, 200 Crips, a good bit of DMI members, Vice Lords, GDs, you had BDs, there was a couple other sets up there. So it held the worst of the worst. That's pretty much where they kept us, you know what I'm saying? If you got in trouble for stabbing people, if you get in trouble for extorting, beating people up, if you're a known gang member and a leader, that's where they're putting you if you're not in the hole. So being up there, you see a lot of stuff. Most people don't shit where they sleep. That's why there wasn't too much stuff going on, but there was a lot of crazy stuff involved. Once a gang member gets involved in something and something jumps off, automatically there's going to be 15 to 20 people involved off gate. Being in West Virginia, you have Charleston, which is the capital, but then you also have Huntington, which is also big. So you had a lot of Charleston cats and Huntington cats all up there. Some Blood, some Crips, some GDs, some BDs, some DMI, and some Odinist. Otis by hands had the most members up there in West Virginia prison, hands down. You know what I'm saying? They had the numbers. Then it'd be like the Bloods. You know what I'm saying? Another crazy thing I ended up seeing was, so I had this homeboy. He was a vice lord, right? He was this white dude. So there was the other individual that ended up coming down from another facility and for being a high. He was a young boy, right? So you got to remember, in prison, saying whore, bitch, that stuff does not fly. That's a no-go, automatically no-go. Up in maximum security. Now, not gonna lie, some of the dudes that were at these lower classification prisons, they'd come up there and tell stories how dudes was getting called bitches, whores, sluts, and all this other crazy stuff, and nothing happening. So what happened is, the dude ended up coming down, calling my vice lord buddy in passing, you know, jokingly, a bitch, more or less, right? Well, my buddy instantly took off on him, right? So dude was from Huntington, and he had a lot of GD buddies from Huntington and from Charleston, you know what I'm saying? But my boy, he was a vice lord, so everyone that fell underneath the 5, right? The blood dudes up there ended up all jumping in. The few vice lords that was up there ended up jumping all in. So at the end of the day, it was like 17 people that ended up getting sent to jail. The problem is when my homeboy hit dude, it really didn't faze him. When he hit my homeboy back, the first time my homeboy got hit, he turned around and went straight to a cell. There's 17 people going crazy in the pod. You got these Crips, you got these GDs, these BDs, all going in on these Bloods and these vice lords. You know, there was a big brawl because of all this. The fucked up part is, when the COs ended up coming in and getting everybody, my homeboy was still in the cell fixing himself up because he got popped in the eye real good, like real good, right? He couldn't see. That was what he said. He's like, the moment he hit me, everything went black. He said, I couldn't see anything. I thought I went blind. So he literally just walked away and went straight to his cell. Whenever you're in prison, if you're part of an organization, staying out of people's politics is, you know, that's number one thing. If you're in an organization or a gang, you do not get your nose into other people's politics. But then again, whenever there's something going on, right, most people click up. You know, you'd have out in the big yard, you know, when people would hold meetings, you know, there'd be 50, 60 of us DMI members out there. And then over there, you'd have, you know, same amount, if not more, Bloods and stuff. Like, they're grouped up. But whenever you're on a pod, it's different because the pod's only so big, 75, you know, feet wide and probably, you know, 150 feet long. But there's picnic tables everywhere. So when they group up in the pod, you can hear everything, especially if you're right outside their cell. One of the craziest things I'd ever seen politic-wise involving gangs was a clash with 2 of the tops and GDs, right? So this individual named Solo ended up coming from Mount Olive, ended up doing a bunch of time, and he was running stuff up there. So he comes down, and the top that was at Huttonsville of the GDs running there at the time, he felt like that was his show, right? Even though you got someone coming down from a higher classification prison with higher rank who now expects just to go right into that position, they had a clash. So what ended up happening is, like I said, when you got people outside of your cell, you can hear everything they say, especially if they're being loud, right? So what ended up happening is Solo ended up pulling this top into a cell, right? It was kind of catty-corner from mine. So I'm in my cell, lights is off. I can see everything and I can hear everything. I'm just in the back peeping everything out, right? Just to make sure that I know there's nothing wrong going on with any of my comrades. So I'm sitting back, I'm listening, I'm watching. Solo ends up pulling dude into his cell. And as I said, they both GDs. So Solo ends up sliding dude a knife like, look, we have an issue. You a G, I'm a G. I'm supposed to be here. You're supposed to fall back and take number 2. Solo ended up checking the motherfucker like, look, you want to be in the top? I'm going to be in the top. So this is what we're going to do. Whoever leaves out this cell, that's who's going to be top. Slid him a knife and like, let's go. Pull this card like a whoo boy. Yeah, you want the spot, you can have that. That's all you. Shit, you should have done it in the first place, my boy. Now you look like you just got punked. So now people really aren't going to disrespect you because you put yourself in the position. You put yourself to that spot. Once you get to that spot and notice that dude's pushing back, You fell back. Now, as I said, and I keep saying, if you're really not about that life, right? If you're really not willing to take something to a whole nother level, do not get yourself involved. I've seen too many dudes end up getting stabbed and completely trashed with pumpkin heads because they got stomped out because they portrayed themselves as this one thing, and that was not the case. I do these videos not to glorify prison or not to brag about this or that or what I saw. What I do is try to prevent those from going down the same path, opening up their eyes, along with doing these video chats with these inmates still locked up in prison, that if you want to be a gangster, you can live like a gangster. That's completely on you. But this is what it's going to get you. A 7x12 cell, possibly with another individual, if not more. And if you're not really that lucky, you might be in a pod with 70 other individuals in an open dorm where you got bunk beds everywhere, no privacy at all for the next rest of your life. So you choose what path you want to go down. I just advise, don't do it. As always, guys, I send my utmost love, loyalty, respect. Keep y'all heads up, stay positive, stay out. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and check out my buddy Caleb over at stonecollectivesupply.com. Brand new drop, Halloween merch is out, fire, colors is crazy. As always, guys, go ahead and check him out. Don't sleep on him. His merchandise is getting fire. As always, guys, stay up, stay out, stay free, stay positive, keep promoting it, and never give up hope, guys.